Dun, 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 dun. Ba, 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 ba.
Hey everyone, welcome to our very second Discussing the Cineweb episode segment. I don't know what I'm labeling these things as. This is the second time, so this is very new for all of us. And we're all here to discuss the Batman as my eyes apparently are starting to water out or something. And today, joining me are two extremely talented and close friends, Nick Wickner and Ella. How are you two doing tonight?
Pretty good.
I am the shadows. I am the night. I am Batman.
No, I'm gonna take that as I'm gonna take that as good. I'm gonna take that as good. Glad to hear it. And this is going to be a spoilers discussion for the record. So, and we're doing this like, I don't know how many weeks after the movie is this? What? 3 weeks? Almost 3 weeks?
I saw it. I saw it last Thursday. So I think it was like last week. I'm pretty sure.
It came out March 4th. So we're a couple weeks out. So really, if you haven't seen the Batman, well, I would, and you want to listen to this discussion, I would either recommend seeing it or, hey, if you don't care, good for you. You don't care about spoilers. That's great for you. I'm so happy for you and with where you are at in your journey with dealing with spoilers. I mean that sincerely, no sarcasm. But if you've had time, so if you haven't seen this movie and you don't want to get spoiled, just put this to the side. Don't not watch this, but just watch it later when you have seen it. Okay, great. Now with that out of the way, since it's a new Batman movie, it's Batman. What, like, under that guy, not under that guy, along with that guy, the other guy, the red and blue guy, the other red and blue guy, because they're Superman and Spider-Man. Like, Batman is one of the most iconic and popular superheroes of all time. So naturally, unless you live in a literal bubble, everyone's going to have different experiences with Batman going in. So I just want to ask both of you, I just want to go through all of our experiences, and connections with the Batman, any Batman things going into the new movie, where your excitement was at, all that type of jazz. So, eeny, meeny, miny, Ella? Let's start with you.
Okay. So, are you getting echo? Sorry.
It's not bad, yeah.
Okay. Well, anyways, I've seen Batman Begins and The Dark Knight Rises, but personally, I don't like Batman films that are focused on Batman himself. I'm more into the villains. But one I really like is Gotham, the TV show Gotham. I think that's a really great portrayal of Bruce Wayne at a young age, and kind of before he became this just stoic man with no personality that protects people. But I don't know, yeah. For me, it's the villains that I like in the story and I think are the most compelling and most interesting part of the Batman universe type thing. Also, Gotham's really cool. I like how they depict Gotham in a lot of different things. And it's very different in a lot of different Batman, which I like because you can see different director styles. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really valid point. Nick, what about you?
So Batman is to me what I think Spider-Man is to you. Almost.
What?
I'm not sure if Batman's equal as James Bond. They might be on the same thing, but Batman is up there. I remember when I was I think I was turning 6 or 7, I had a Batman themed birthday party. I dressed as the Batman Beyond Batman for Halloween when I was
Nice.
8 or 9. I made a few Lego Batman short films for my for a summer course where you made Lego short films, which are on YouTube. I'm not sure what the name is, but you'll find him eventually.
Yeah, I can also plug it here. Future me, the link is here.
Yes. Yeah, I watched all the movies. I watched obviously the first Batman with Michael Keaton, which is one of my favorite movies. I had to admit I was a fan of Batman Forever, a little longer than most people should be, but I still enjoy it for what it is. It can't be fun. Batman and Robin is a movie. The Dark Knight trilogy, I have somewhat of a mixed opinion on. I don't think they're as great as everyone says they are. I still think they're good movies, but yeah. I liked Ben Affleck when he was Batman. I thought he was fine. I don't think the movies were good. I thought he was fine though. And I watched a lot of Batman the animated series and the Batman cartoon, which tying into the movies, The Batman.
I remember that cartoon. I'm
Yeah,
not alone.
that's a great cartoon. And obviously I played the Lego Batman 1, 2, and 3. So
Classic.
yeah. So I was very excited for when this movie was coming out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, probably sounds like your Batman and James Bond is my Spider-Man and Sonic the Hedgehog. Yeah. Although I do have to say, for my own personal Batman experiences, Batman actually is like my second favorite superhero of all time. Like I love, and he's one of my favorite characters of all time. I don't have nearly the same affinity as the other guy, but I still have the affinity. I got the Batman popcorn thing, which is like, no shame. And have I put popcorn in that thing once? No, but there is no popcorn is going in that. That is a collector's item. I've said it here. Batman has always been one of my favorite characters too. He's always been my second favorite superhero. Well, I'm pretty sure he's always been second under Spider-Man. I remember, I had a Batman costume as a kid. I watched also that Batman cartoon. I remember that Batman cartoon. I don't know if I ever watched all of the animated series, which to me is shocking, and I feel horrible about it, which is why I really need to rectify that. I remember I watched Batman Sub-Zero and maybe Mask of the Phantasm, but if I watched Mask of the Phantasm as a kid, I don't remember any of it. I remembered the Batman cartoon. I remembered Batman Beyond. I had Batman Sub-Zero. It's weird. One of the first Batman movies I remember watching as a kid, well, two of them, when I was really young, were the Batman 60s movie, the movie based off the 60s series. I remember watching that as a kid. I haven't seen it since, but I remember that as a kid. And, to this day, I'll still quote, some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
Can't get rid of a bomb.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
Yeah. I don't have nostalgia with the show or the movie in general, but I have nostalgia with my memories of it, if that makes sense. And the other one, weirdly enough, is Batman and Robin. I remember enjoying that as a kid. Do I enjoy it now? Well, if I enjoy it now, it's not in an unironic sense.
Mhm.
That, because freeze well, insert ice
Yeah.
things here.
You are not sending me to the cooler. Freeze well.
Actually, speaking of the 60s Batman, I'll tie it into later, but I'll bring up, there's something important with the 60s Batman that I'll tie back to that.
Gotcha. I'm trying to think of what it is, but I'll try and keep the surprise in my head. And then I don't think I watched the Dark Knight movies as they came out, but when Dark Knight Rises came out, I watched Batman Begins and the Dark Knight for prep, and then watched the Dark Knight Rises, and loved all three of them as a kid. I haven't seen the Dark Knight Rises since I was a kid, but I've since rewatched Batman Begins and the Dark Knight, and I do still love those movies. I think, I still do hold, spoiler alert, I do hold the Dark Knight still as my number one, although it's very close with a certain other movie we're about to talk about. I have seen the Keaton movies since. I do enjoy Michael Keaton as Batman, and I haven't seen his movies in a while. I'm in the same boat. I still haven't seen either cut of Zack Snyder's Justice League or Suicide Squad, but I have seen BVS, and I always thought, Ben Affleck wasn't a bad Batman, just in a bad context. And then there's just a bunch of other Batman things. I mean, Batman is just, there's so many Batman things.
Wait,
I
can I bring up one? Have you
What?
guys seen Batman: The Killing Joke?
I haven't seen the Killing Joke
I like
movie.
it.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's based on one of, if not the most famous Batman comics of all time.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think like it's very focused on the Joker, and I love the Joker, so that's
yeah,
kind of my
that
thing.
makes sense. Oh yeah, and then there's also a Joker movie, but you know, this
Oh,
isn't
the Joker movie.
we live in
Joker,
a
baby.
society.
The
Yeah.
critiques of it have like made me not like it, but I like it. Like I'm not gonna
Yeah, no, that's valid. I mean,
my affinity for
I
it.
still think my favorite Joker might be Mark Hamill, which I was also going to bring up the Batman Arkham games on top of the Lego Batman games. I loved Batman. Arkham City was my first Arkham game. Those games are amazing. I love those games.
I'm actually
I haven't-
replaying.
I agree.
I'm actually
Yeah.
replaying Arkham Knight at the moment. Like recently,
Nice.
so.
Yeah.
I'm stuck in like I'm doing like the Arkham Asylum game, and I'm like stuck at one point, and I can't get past it. So
Oh yeah. It's weird. I didn't play Arkham Asylum until after. I think that was like the last one of them I did play because I played City and then I played Origins and then I played Night. But then I just never had Arkham Asylum until a Return to Arkham collection came out on PS4. And I hope that another Arkham collection. There's a rumor that it would come to the Switch. It was like, please, baby, I want to play Batman Arkham City in my car, on a long car ride. But yeah, I love Batman, and I was also similarly hyped for this movie, especially since, like we knew Ben Affleck wasn't going to be doing his Batman movie anymore. And then we realized that he wasn't going to be Batman at all for this movie, period. Then Robert Pattinson got cast. That was very intriguing. The first trailer was the first teaser in like August of 2020 was amazing. It obviously has since gotten pushed back all the way up until the beginning of this month, March 2022. And it's, if you really think about it, this is the first standalone live action Batman movie in theaters since The Dark Knight Rises, which is kind of crazy because it's Batman. But I guess all the other Batman things have been either not standalone, like with the Snyder or with the DC extended universe, or also, I mean, I count this as a Batman movie, and I love it too, the Lego Batman movie. But anyway, so I was really hyped for this. Honestly, I would say the Batman was my most anticipated of the year. Very close with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, but I would say ultimately that this was my most anticipated of the year. And, just to finally get into our actual thoughts on the movie, I wasn't disappointed at all. I loved this movie. I've now seen it 3 times, which hasn't come close to the record of this guy's recent movie, not by far, and it won't catch up to that in terms of how many times I see it. But I've loved it every single time. It's like next to everything I would really want from a Batman movie, and being a Batman super fan, like I'm really happy about that. What about you two? What are your just general thoughts on the Batman, the movie?
Want me to go?
Not everyone go at once.
All right, I'll go first. This is now my favorite interpretation of Batman altogether. I think this is Robert Pattinson. I'm coming to that. I think he might be my definitive Batman now. Needless to say, I think this is probably not only one of the best Batman movies ever made, I think this is one of the best comic book movies like I've seen in a while, because not to bash Marvel, because I do love Marvel. I feel like Marvel has been more consistently good to okay-ish, where I feel like this one really like surprised me by how much I think about this movie every day, and how much I listen to the soundtrack, how much I just quote the movie to myself. It's just, I don't know, I feel like it's on a different playing field to other comic book movies recently.
That's very fair. What about you, Ella?
I don't know, to be honest. It didn't really stand out to me that much, but I think there was a lot of thought that definitely went into it, and I can appreciate that.
You still liked it, right? I thought you had mentioned before.
Yeah,
you
like
took it.
overall, I think I liked it. I think the ending got a little long for me. I really liked the aesthetics of it. Like I really love the cinematography and like the like depiction of Batman. Like I really enjoyed like their characterization of him as like this dark thing and then this like kind of conspirator like type thing. And it was a different like kind of like version of Batman. So I really liked that. And I liked how they created, you know, Gotham and stuff. I think the scenes alone I really enjoyed. It's like really odd. Like I think the scenes alone I enjoyed, but all together as a movie, like I feel like the scenes didn't like come together. If that makes sense. Like
They
I
felt stagnated.
they felt like they didn't really work together for me. Like I felt like the pacing was a little off or like they were kind of disjointed, but I think that might have been intentional, like the way it was taking you to different places because Gotham's kind of chaotic. So maybe they were trying to make it feel like more chaotic and like kind of things were unraveling and not so like I can see where they're coming from. For me, it got like a little confusing at times. I was like, oh, where am I in the story now? And like where's the story going?
Yeah.
Because there were
And
so
it's also
many locations and so many different like things in the movie and so many different like themes and plots and stuff like that. But I think if you like understand the comics, you might like appreciate it a little more because you might understand more of like the backstory to certain things. Because certain parts I was like, wait, like what is this? Like what are all these names and stuff like that? So I think that's like my overall, like I think overall it was like a pretty good movie, but I wouldn't watch it again. I think it was a little long for me.
yeah. I mean that's right. I mean it is 3 hours long, and like you know, it's like I personally like don't care about like length. I think like for me, my thing is like I want a movie to be as long as it needs to be, whether it's 90 minutes or 3 hours. Because you know, sometimes a 90-minute movie can feel rushed or long, and sometimes a 3-hour movie can feel rushed, or it can obviously feel long since that's 3 whole hours of your life. I mean, drink vengeance juice in the theater with care. I also got this Batman cup. And anytime there's a drink in this, it's not whatever that drink is. It's vengeance juice, not sponsored. Vengeance juice, not sponsored. Yeah, it is. The 3 hours definitely did kick in. I didn't mind it being 3 hours going in, and I was so excited for that. And there's a lot to the movie. Like when you see it, all the different storylines, especially since low key, I think there are 2 protagonists with this movie, but I'll get into that later. And there's a lot of different intertwining storylines. And I think for the most part, I think the Batman really earns its 3 hours of runtime. And I enjoy like basically almost every single scene. I think towards the end, since it is a movie with so many different storylines, and because they have almost 2 different climaxes, like when you go through the first climax with the scene, since again we're talking spoilers, so we don't have to dance around it. The scene where Catwoman tries to kill Falcone, and Batman stops her. You know, I think after that point, it's like you can feel the length because that felt like a climactic scene, which it was. And then you get the other climax scene at the Gotham Gardens, whatever it's supposed to be a place in New York, but it's just placed Gotham in there. Or that climax with Batman against the Riddler goons at the mayoral celebration or whatever it's called. But
yeah. A lot
Yeah.
of people I talked to have said like when they watched it, they were like unsure when it was gonna be over. Like they always thought they would watch a scene and they'd be like, oh, it's over now. And then like it wouldn't be over. Like I've talked to multiple people who have told me that. And I felt that way too. And it does make sense, like when you're dealing with so many different like plot lines, like you were saying, like you'd be like, oh, it's gonna end now, like on this cliffhanger type thing.
Mhm.
And then it didn't. which was kind of nice in a way because you got more closure about the rest of the thing. So they tied up loose ends. So like I appreciate that, honestly.
Oh
And
yeah,
it,
absolutely.
and it was kind of like, oh, like I wasn't really like wanting it to be. I just kind of thought it was going to be over. Like I wasn't wanting it to be over. I was just like, oh, it's gonna be over now.
Yeah, because again, they did have like a climactic-esque scene. Nick, what did you think about like the length of the Batman?
To be honest, I didn't really see too much of an issue with the lengths because looking back at like other bigger comic book movies like Infinity War obviously being about 3 hours, I'm pretty sure Infinity War is also pushing 3 hours as well.
Well, Infinity War, I think, is 2.5, and
think it's
Endgame
two.
is 3.
I think it's like 240 something for Infinity War because I think this is just Batman just beat that by being the second longest.
I do think it's the Batman is one of the longest comic book movies out there. Future me, fact check it right here.
Do 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 do.
Theatrical because like obviously the Justice League Snyder cut's like 4 hours and I'm like,
Oh yeah, I still haven't seen it, and I am not.
I'm
Like-
probably not going to watch that.
Here's the thing, if I here's the thing, if I watch the 4 hours of Snyder's Justice League, I would want to rewatch BVS before that, and I haven't because I haven't seen that in years. And if I watch the Ultimate Edition, which I've heard is the better version,
It's like 3.5 hours.
that is 3 hours. And the Batman is like I think 255. Again, future me, hopefully future me will fact check it with like a slideshow. Future me slideshow, the release dates. But it's definitely on the longer side compared to other comic book movies. And I definitely think it earned. I really do think it earned the 3 hours for the most part. I just think because they had, 2 climaxes and like several different storylines with subplots, it's like, and I don't feel it like as much I didn't feel it really that much the first time. I took note of it that there was 2 climaxes, but then on particularly in the third viewing, it's like, okay, yeah, I can see why. I can see areas where the movie can be trimmed down, but overall, I still really enjoyed it. And it's like, it's like hard to know what scenes to cut. It's like, do you cut like the really interesting back and forth between Batman and Gordon? Because Robert Pattinson and Jeffrey Wright, they both had great chemistry as Batman and Gordon. I really loved both of them and their dynamic together. Or do you cut like action scenes that might not be needed, but then you get the badassness of the Batmobile scene? It's just like, I'm not gonna cut that. I don't want to cut the Batmobile. Why would you want to cut the Batmobile?
Actually, speaking on like the action scenes, that's sort of what helped. That's why I think like the action is more spread out than like most comic book movies, where like it's usually action sequence, action sequence, action sequence. This one I feel like it's mostly a detective noir story where it's driving. That's the driving point, and obviously that's a hard sell because even for people who love detective stuff like I do, it is over 3 hours. Just detective stuff would be kind of
Absolutely.
too much to swallow. So I feel like I feel like the action sequences are so well placed. So it's like when you feel like, okay, maybe we're getting a little, like too much story wise. Then they have the first nightclub fight. Then they have a much more story. They have the Batmobile chase, story. The second nightclub / Catwoman scene, and then I feel like all the action was placed in the right amount of time. So that sort of helped me because I didn't really feel the lengths. Honestly, I thought it was actually the ending, like the second climax felt a little too long. But like for like the first 2 hours and 20 minutes, I felt like, oh, we're already at 2 hours and 20 minutes. That didn't feel like 2 hours and 20 minutes. But the last 30 minutes feel like 30 minutes. So.
Yeah, I kind of agree on that one because I think by the end I was like starting to be like, oh, this is long. But like when I was watching it, it was like going fast. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like while I was watching, I was like, oh, this is quick. But then the end does feel like it lags on a bit. So yeah, I agree with that. I think the action sequences, going back to that, is they were really well done. Like I think that was one
Yeah.
thing I really enjoyed in it, is like those were really well done action sequences, especially like when the car flips, like the one they have in the trailer, like when the car flips and it's that backward shot, like that is beautiful. Like
Yeah,
the camera work in that was like so good, and it was just like
absolutely.
that scene was like one of my favorite ones, I think, in like the movie. Like, because I think the dialogue kind of lacked in some areas. Like I think it was a little, but I get it. Like I think it was a little cheesy at certain parts. I'm not gonna lie. I think the one biggest one is like, I always joke about this one. It's like you have a lot of cats. I like to take them stray. It's like that like type of dialogue is like hilarious. I don't think it's bad necessarily. I just think it's really funny to me.
Yeah.
Like my friend and I were laughing like because we like couldn't contain it, because it was just like, it's just so it's tongue in cheek, and I guess like people like that, you know what I mean? Because that is kind of, I guess that's how like comics kind of are. So
Yeah, I mean, and inherently, I think this is a very dark movie. I think like that moment like really works because like I think like that and like the few other moments of comedic relief, very few. This ain't a Marvel movie, and this ain't Spider-Man either. Like, you know, it's a very dark, grounded movie, but that like that moment acted as a really nice bit of comedic relief. And yeah, the Batmobile chase scene is just like
I don't
so
know if
ma-
that was intentionally funny though. Like I don't know if it was really.
Yeah, the cats line. I think that's supposed to be like sort of like in world. He's like, you have a lot of cats. I think in world it makes sense, which I like. I like how
Yeah, I think-
it's
yeah, I do think it's definitely it's
It's
definitely tongue in cheek and very like, you know, AO type vibes, which is like that's very fitting for Batman and Catwoman's first interactions. And yeah, the Batmobile action sequence, just so many, I remember so distinctly. If you know, I saw this movie with our close friend Jalen. He couldn't be here tonight. And I just during the Batmobile action sequence, just so many chef's kisses, like the yeah, Greg Fraser cinematography. Oh my God, he's gonna probably win the Oscar. At the time we're recording this, this is before the Oscars. I have no clue if I'm gonna be able to post it before or after the Oscars happen. I hope before, but more than likely, past me is saying Greg Fraser is probably going to win the Oscar for Dune, and he's already looking at another nomination for this movie. His cinematography is insane. It's insanely good with this movie. I don't know how you two felt. The sound design, the score, Michael Giacchino's score is incredible, and the choreography too. Like the choreography, like of the action and like all the action felt different. No action scene felt samey. I think some of the hand-to-hand combat scenes in The Dark Knight, like, and again, I would still say I slightly prefer The Dark Knight, but I will say this is number 2, spoiler alert, for my final thoughts. But like some of the hand-to-hand combat in The Dark Knight could feel samey. Not a single action scene in this movie felt like the same. We have the Batmobile chase. We have just the scenes of Batman beating up thugs. And then we have scenes with like Batman like dealing with, you know, different scenarios. I really loved the second climax. Like because like I've never like seen like that type of action in a Batman movie, and like the shot, like the part where he just swings around with the grappling hooks. Like also the way he played with the gadgets just like was really cool. Like I don't know, I thought the action was all spectacular here.
yeah.
looking back at sorry.
No, you can go. You can go first.
Looking back at it, like I'm starting to like it more. I'm like, wait, like that was actually kind of good, because like I think about the individual elements. Like I really enjoyed the individual elements. But like when I was viewing it, I was kind of confused a little bit, just like because a lot was going on at once. But like I think looking back at it, like the individual elements were really good. Like the costuming was great. I loved the costuming. Like that's a big thing I look at a lot of the times. Everything felt more grounded in reality than a lot of the other like Batman type things that I've seen. Like it felt more like, oh, this is like a real world that they built. Like I felt like
Mhm.
it was like more grounded reality, even though the things were like, obviously this would never, like this technology probably doesn't exist. It's like it's a version of reality that I could see happening, kind of. So like I really liked that element of it. Like even with like him actually putting the black, like you seeing him putting the black face paint on, like that kind of thing, like that was a really cool thing that I liked. Like the
Yeah.
eye contacts, like that kind of stuff, like the details of it were like really cool. So I'm like thinking back, I'm like starting to like it more. I think.
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe I should rewatch it. Yeah, you guys
Yeah.
are convincing me.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, yeah, that's fair. I mean, sometimes it just takes jogging your memory. And also, it really is a movie that sticks with you no matter what you think of it. Not just, because of the details, the cinematography, the production design. You mentioned it, Ella. I loved the way they did Gotham in this movie. Honestly, this is one of my favorite versions of Gotham in like Batman movies, because it's like it's not as like straight reality, like grounded reality, like Nolan did with the Dark Knight trilogy, but it's also like not pure gothic like Tim Burton. It is like a really, really nice mix between the two, and I just really liked it, how they did that. And another thing that like stood out to me that kind of got me by surprise, even though in hindsight I shouldn't have been surprised, this movie is political. It is a very political movie, very deliberately so. I don't know why I was surprised, but especially since it's a detective tale. Like, so many detective stories are political in some sense, and that's definitely another thing that also stood out to me. Like, basically, having it be like, Falcone was the mayor for Gotham for like 20 years. Like I remember, like I kind of had the thought when Pattinson was cast, like, okay, yeah, but why can't we actually get an actor of color to play Batman/Bruce Wayne? This is why. It's because the fact that he's rich and white is a part of his foundation, and
Old
all
money and like being rich and white, and like, yeah, I think that's definitely a part of Batman.
yeah,
I think you would have to create like a new character, or like base something off of another
Yeah.
character.
and there are definitely versions of that, and like
I like that they called like stuff out in it. But I don't
absolutely,
think it was too deliberate. Like I think it was very subtle, because I almost didn't even remember that. But now that you're like saying that, I'm like, oh yeah, there was the part about how like politicians are scummy, and like how these
Yeah.
these upper elites are like actually bad people, and that like Batman himself, his parents were like not good people. And
yeah. Well,
I do like that,
yeah,
because they were trying to be like, oh, I don't know. I guess you can form your own opinion, because they were saying different things in the movie.
yeah.
But to
Oh,
me,
yeah.
I feel like they probably weren't actual good people, because there's always, like, if you're a politician, you just have to, like, there's no way of being a politician and being good.
Yeah,
in
you
a
don't go to
world,
someone like Falcone.
especially in a broken system of government. Like there's no way of being a good politician in a broken system. Like it's just not possible. So I think
Absolutely.
that the movie definitely shows that.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on this, Nick, and like sort of like the political nature of the movie?
Yeah, because like Batman in itself has already sort of has like obviously political elements throughout its entire world. Obviously, a lot of corruption within the police, as it's shown in the movie. That's always been a very interesting part, because like Gordon is like the only good cop essentially in Gotham, aside from like Renee Montoya or like.
And guess what? He isn't white, because
Yeah.
white people, privilege. Sorry to cut you off.
No, I got it. But like even then, Jeffrey Wright is like, I didn't even like, obviously you shouldn't really care if a character's a different ethnicity unless it's like sort of definitive of their like character. Like you couldn't have a white Black Panther, so like that's like out of the question. But like yeah, like that. But like Jeffrey Wright is a fantastic actor, and I had no issue with
Absolutely.
him being Gordon, because he's like a perfect Gordon.
He really is.
He's
He was great in this movie.
he might
Yeah,
be
he was really good.
he's probably tied with Gary Oldman as my favorite.
Yeah,
But,
that's a very tough one. They're both fantastic as Gordon.
Yeah, but I liked I really loved their dynamic. I loved the scene where they go to the mayor's like garage and they find the mayor's
drive.
thumb drive. And I don't know, the way he just says after he opens up the
The
drive,
fingerprint scanner.
he's like,
He's like,
this
this
guy,
guy's
the
hilarious.
way he just said, this guy's hilarious, is like, that's just so Gordon to me. And I'm like, okay, I love this casting so much, and I love the fact that we're getting him and this version of Batman together.
Completely agreeing with that.
Yeah,
I've
Yeah.
just I completely agree with that.
yeah, Jeffrey Wright. I mean, he's good in everything he's in. Like, I don't think I've seen a bad performance from him. Granted, I probably haven't seen everything he's done, but he was great in this movie. And yeah, I also that was like another just a brief side tangent. That scene was also like another bit of unintended dark comedic relief when it's like thumb drive. It's like when I saw that the first time and it was like a packed theater for that early IMAX screening. Like that was like come on. Like you just
That-
like could hear people was like, oh, come on, Riddler, come on. Paul Dano was also great as the Riddler here. I mean, I've heard like some people like definitely have very definitive thoughts on him.
Really, I really enjoyed him as it.
Oh yeah, I always thought he was very good casting as the Riddler, and this just proved it. I mean, I think the thing that people have some contentions with were the freak out. And I was like, no,
no.
I love that.
I
I
love
don't
it
know,
too.
like
He's so
I feel like that is like how someone react. I don't know. Some people might think that's unrealistic, but like I don't
he
know.
also
Like,
just
for
kills
someone that's, like,
people.
also like for someone that's like kind of losing their mind, I guess. Like that's kind of what they were trying to portray, and I feel like it is a little over dramatic. But at the end of the day, it's a movie, so like I
Yeah.
think you can like do that, and I think that's kind of like a nice part of like a lot of the Batman like villains is that they are kind of out there and like wild and really like loud and like
Oh, yeah.
you know, I think I liked that part, and it was funny. I think like it was really funny.
Yeah, it was funny and scary. Like I know people who laughed during that, and I know people who probably like, this guy's a creep.
That
Dude,
part
and-
I do think was a little off for like where he was going with the character in general, and then that part felt a little odd to me, but it was, I guess, I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't think of him like breaking down. I don't think I would have liked that. Like I don't think I
Yeah.
would have liked to see him like crying or something. I don't think he would be like that. I think he'd be like a whiny little kid, and I kind of like
Yeah.
agree that he'd be like,
Because he didn't
"No."
have a
didn't have a-
proper childhood, and that
Yeah,
like-
exactly.
I loved that element of making the Riddler an orphan. And also like the Riddler is someone who literally kills people for the purpose of a game. Like, you know, I love how they integrated the Riddler naturally giving riddles and like making a game out of it. And also like I love the jokes on the social media influencer aspects. It's like, hi guys, this will be my last post for a while.
Yeah, that
And
was-
just, I want to say to all the people, thank you for the notes on the detonators.
Hmm.
That was another weirdly funny moment, but I think, yeah, Dano was great as a villain. Another great villain in the movie, Colin Farrell as the Penguin. He's like, this guy's crazy.
Hmm.
I mean, he was so good in the movie. I mean, the makeup on its own is Oscar worthy. Like you do not see Colin Farrell. At a couple points, I could hear Colin Farrell's voice, but for the most part, it was so good. I loved him as a Penguin. And he definitely, Colin Farrell as the Penguin was almost the comedic relief in his own right, even though he still also fit in the context in this world. He was just very, big, like boisterous, and I loved that. They integrated all of the characters so well. Obviously, Zoe Kravitz, I thought, was a fantastic Catwoman. I think she might be my favorite Catwoman. And then, well, I mean, there's the one guy who I don't know how we haven't had an individual conversation on Robert Pattinson. Like
Wait,
the
can I
guy.
say something about Catwoman though? Like I really like I think they made a more realistic portrayal of a woman in like Catwoman. Like I think she was a better written woman. So like I'll give them that. Like I think she was definitely more independent, and she was all like, I think Catwoman is like for herself, like in a good way. That's how I see her character, is she fends for herself and she fights for herself, and that's like the number one person she looks out for. And I think in the movie, like they definitely get that right, and I really like that, because that's who she is as a character, or at least how I would see her character.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
She is like completely independent, and she doesn't need like Batman. And I think that's like one part, like she would like him, but she doesn't need him.
Yeah,
You know
I
what
mean, yeah, I think they did a really good job. I definitely agree for the most part. I mean, another thing that my roommate and other film major, Davi, brought up, because he loves Catwoman, is like Catwoman also fights for like the smaller person, and versus like Batman, who's like trying to change the whole system with vengeance. But Catwoman is like just after one person, and like Zoe Kravitz, like her
she's
reaction.
more personally connected to like what is the people that are being marginalized in the system, because she is one of them. So
Yeah, exactly.
she's defending from within, and she has a personal connection to like that. So I think it allows her to like understand it better in a way.
Yeah, and her reaction to when Annika, she sees Annika's body is like it's so quick, and but you can just see the pain in her face, because at least from what I saw, and since Zoe Kravitz has confirmed that she did play Catwoman as bisexual, I do think she definitely had a relationship that was more than just platonic with Annika. At least that's how I saw it. I don't know how you two saw it. So like her reaction, you could see the pain on her face, versus Pattinson, who like obviously didn't know her, but like he still cares. Like, you could still see the shock on his face too, and even with the cowl.
Yeah,
I wish they would have showed that more. They were like actually a thing, I think. I get that, like maybe for her character's background she did that, which I love. But like if they were trying to do that, I think they would have shown it a little bit more.
Yeah, maybe
I didn't watch the like scenes close enough when they were interacting, because those were very short scenes of them interacting.
Yeah, they're very quick, and there's so much in the movie that like if you like got like the movie from all of Catwoman's perspective, again, I think there's two protagonists here. I think the other one is obviously Batman. I think low key the second protagonist of this movie, and I think it's why I definitely think there are the two storylines, is I think the second protagonist of this movie is Catwoman. And I also would low key, like, since they've announced other HBO Max's series spinoffs, I would love to see Zoe Kravitz get her own series, because she could hold her own. And this version of Catwoman, I want to see what this version of Catwoman does. But yeah, I definitely can see that. I almost wonder if they could have like snuck in something during that scene where like Batman, Bruce Wayne, even though it's really just Batman, is like seeing them through the goggles. Like if they tried to include something there, but I think they still did it naturally too. And it could have also just been platonic, and it still was just a bisexual Catwoman. But I love how they didn't make a big deal about it either.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Now you brought that scene up again. That's one thing I actually really kind of find funny, and I actually love about this version. The fact that the Batsuit is so light that he puts it in a backpack. He just, I don't know. I just love that, because every time he just puts that on, he puts on the helmet, he drives. That also happens near the speaking of going to the Iceberg Lounge for a second, because I want to go back to the villains, because I have some things to say about them. But what I love about the Iceberg Lounge scenes are every time he goes, it's a different interaction. The first one, he knocks his Batman. They're like,
has to beat his way in.
Yeah, he's like, we're gonna make you bleed. He's like, my blood or yours, and he just kicks the crap out of them. He hits what's his name, Kenzie, with the baseball bat, which comes back in a fun way.
Oh yeah.
The second time is when he goes to see Carmine. He's in Bruce Wayne. They're like, Bruce Wayne, and then just let him immediately. And then the third one, he knocks on the door, just sneaks in, locks the guy out. I don't know. I just love that. I love how
Yeah.
there's like Batman just like has different ways of getting what he wants, and they're not always the same way.
Oh yeah, it's very versatile, and that's what I loved about it. I really did love, but I just pulled a random hair off my shirt. I don't know why I felt the need to point that out.
These are for detective work. Whose hair is that?
Yeah, exactly. What shade of it was it?
But like,
Yeah, but
You gotta look at the cortex of it. Gotta
yeah,
get your microscope out. Look at the cortex. See.
yeah, I already contaminated it. I didn't.
Hair, see if it's human hair.
Now I almost want to find this hair. Yeah,
See the color, see the aging on it, the aging pattern.
exactly. Yeah,
but yeah,
I need some Bruce Wayne money to be able to do that type of stuff.
Yeah, going. Yeah.
Not really. You just need a microscope.
Or that, I just need smart science brain, which I don't have.
Cut that out. Cut that out.
Nope.
You need to.
Oh no,
cut
this
that
is
out.
all
I don't
staying
know
in.
if
This
the
is all
science-
staying in.
This
Yeah.
is no, because I don't know if the science is right that I was saying because I haven't taken forensics since like high school. So like that's probably all.
Anyone watching this who is a STEM major, please feel free to fact
No,
check.
no, I'm a film major. Please don't be a
I mean,
part.
we're all film majors. Nobody. I never said I was like as smart as Peter Parker.
Can I
You're-
bring up something about? I want to see if you guys think that. Do you think like he was like socially awkward?
Batman?
Bruce or the Riddler?
The Batman.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I sort of liked about this take. Usually, Bruce Wayne is probably the hardest part of being cast as Batman because he's like, he has to like be a different character, Batman. And this one, it's really like this is his second year. He hasn't gotten that down yet, so he's like just a brooding like young adult, and they're like, "Hey, it's Bruce Wayne," and he just looks at him like,
Oh yeah. Like this
And,
is like one of the most reclusive Bruce Wayne ever. Bruce Wayne's ever.
I like that.
Yeah.
Me
same.
too.
In my opinion, I still think Michael Keaton is still the best Bruce Wayne because he's both charming, but he also has that social awkwardness about it. Or I feel like Christian Bale is very much, he's obviously a different character, but it's always like he feels like he's playing a different character.
Yeah,
I feel like
I liked that.
I like that. Yeah. Same as like Ben Affleck, where it's sort of like Ben Affleck's not really playing Bruce Wayne. And neither is
I
like,
don't even remember his Bruce Wayne, to be honest. I just
yeah,
remember.
he's basically just Batman, which I get, but like it just sort of felt weird. Whereas this one, I felt like when he's interesting when he's Bruce Wayne in this one, I feel like more than he is in other movies.
Yeah.
I think he's more interesting than when he's actually Batman. I would say, because like I think actual Batman, like, wow, he can fight. Like that's kind of how I view like when Batman's in a bat suit.
I liked this version of Batman being more like a hard-boiled detective, like classic Humphrey Bogart and Maltese Falcon type of vibe.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I feel like he is where other Batmans are more like they're just action heroes, where it's like you could really mostly the villains are what. Otherwise, you can like have this be like it could be Darkman or it could be the Phantom or it could be like these other superheroes in this world, and it would pretty much work the same. Or I feel like this one really depends
Detective
on
Comics.
Detective Comics. Yeah, it needs to be Batman doing Batman stuff, which I really love, and I feel like his like he felt the smartest out of all the Batmen, which I'm not to credit the other ones for being stupid or not, but like
That's just the writing of like who wrote the character and
That
like,
is definitely true. And
the directing. And I agree. Like I think he seemed smarter to me. He
Yeah.
changed my perception of Batman, I think. Because like I think my
Mm-hmm.
perception of Batman, because of the other depictions, is that he's not that smart and he's just muscle, kind of.
yeah.
oh yeah.
He's just like this muscular rich man with all these fancy gadgets. Like that's how I usually depict it. So I think this was like a really great change because like you definitely saw a different side of him where he's actually like using his brain and doing things for himself.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to the opening, which is a fantastic opening. If we should
Which opening?
the Riddler murder scene,
Ooh, yeah.
because the first shot is of I
It's
think it's
Riddler POV.
POV binocular footage, and I when I saw the ninja, I was like, didn't picture like, oh, it's Halloween. I'm like, there's ninjas in this movie now. There's League of Shadows.
I feel like yeah.
But like, yeah, I thought that was a fun little, because everyone like was talking about either Court of Owls maybe appearing, and I feel like Court of Owls has the links to ninjas. So I'm like, oh, the Court of Owls actually appearing in this movie. But then it's like, oh, it's Noah the Mayor's kid. And the moment I knew I loved this movie was actually like the first 3 minutes when he's turning on the mayor turns on the TV, he walks over to get a drink, and the Riddler's just standing there, like right behind him, and it's almost like a Michael Myers-esque shot.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
it's weird because like it didn't scare me. Like it's not a jump scare per se. It's not like, oh boo. It's like he's there, and that's sort of like what I like a lot more. Like it's more tension building. Like you're like, okay, what's gonna happen? Well, how long is it till he attacks him? And it's actually pretty long. I think it's like 2 minutes before he actually attacks, which is pretty.
That's like all the Riddler murder scenes. Like you always just feel that tension. Like the car scene later with the DA character,
Yeah.
and the actual bomb scene. Like when the bomb starts going, like, and I knew from the trailer that's probably where we would have that shot where Batman gets, isn't an explosion. So I was like, uh-oh, sorry, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw it in the trailer. It looked like he grabbed him, like he was holding something. I was like, oh, he got him out of the bomb before it exploded. So when I watched the movie and he just blew up, I was like, oh my god, I love.
Sometimes you just can't get rid of a bomb.
Someday, that would have been funny if he said that. Like he wakes up, he's like, you killed him. Like
Batman and bombs.
I don't know. I think that would have been
because there's also the Dark Knight Rises where the ending of it is like some days you just can't get rid of them.
Yeah, I actually love that. Like the Riddler murder scene is some of the best shot. Like the one scene, the first one after he bashes his head in with the Tucker, and he throws it. The way it's like the Tucker's in focus, but he's not, was so cool. And I'm like, oh, this is a really cool shot. Then they do it again with the bomb in the car when you just see the flashing red and the blue and red lights. And I'm like, this is like so interestingly shot, and I love how like it's like different take on like, because like most movies would be like they would probably just cut before that, but they had like this weird disorienting look, which I really, really appreciated, and I thought it was like a new level of craftsmanship that they added to this movie. So yeah, if they do like we'll get to sequels later, but if they do like a sequel, I would love to have that kind of like style back.
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously it's going to be Matt Reeves again, since like we know Matt Reeves wants to is already basically set to make more. I mean, Matt Reeves is going to be connected to more than just this Batman movie. He's got other Batman movies, or Batman things, because we also have the series on HBO Max series, because that's a hard word to plural. And then but then this movie still felt very standalone, and one of the reasons that it's because of Reeves, and it's because of Greg Fraser on the cinematography, and again the production design just really stand out here. Like there's just so many, like as you were saying, Ella, many.
Costuming always gets forgotten. Like
the costumes were fantastic. I love this Batman.
Batman's. I liked Batman's costumes. I liked that they were like. I kind of liked that they looked. He was trying to look like cheap too at some point. Like he was like
handmade almost.
Because like I feel like his character kind of is like he kind of wishes he wasn't such a rich, like horrible person. Like he was born into like that kind of like thing. And like I think some like people that have a lot of wealth are kind of like dressed down to feel like a lot of people with like a lot of money dress down, and that's a very common thing. So I think that was interesting because he's trying to blend into his surroundings.
Absolutely.
That was like a really important, like I thought that was
like
really clever they did that. Like he's not trying to draw attention to himself.
Yeah.
But I think in other things, obviously he's more like controlling the businesses and stuff, and like he's just fitting into like his upper echelon in a lot of the other movies, and in this he's trying to blend in and hide.
I really liked, he had like a line like when he first meets Alfred where he's like, Alfred's like, all right, there's a business meeting coming up this morning, you need to be there. And he's like, I don't really care. I don't care about this Alfred.
Yeah.
And I kind of liked how it's not, he's sort of like separating both of his lives from that.
Mhm.
Usually it's like, I don't know, that's sort of like, that could be like seen as like sort of an issue because most people are like, oh, Batman is detective crime stuff and Bruce Wayne's the playboy, like
Yeah,
over the
Yeah,
top.
yeah.
But like
Yeah,
I
that's-
like that they blended him more to just being one than the other. But I feel like that those are kind of like the most boring scenes in like the other movies where it's just Bruce Wayne doing Bruce Wayne stuff.
yeah.
But like speaking of the technicals, cinematography is great, costume tech, and all makeup. The sound, you never realize how important sound is in a movie until you hear a movie that has sound as fantastic as this one.
Mhm.
Because I remember like the Batmobile scene came on.
Oh
when
yeah.
when you just hear that Batmobile, the Batmobile's engine just roar, you're just like, oh, it's just like this is like fanboy out mode. This is like, it's so awesome sounding. It's so powerful. It has like this like, it's like almost like a beast, which I like.
It's a muscle car.
It's freaking Christine from Hell, which I love. And I love I don't know, the hit, like the punches sounded more realistic than other movies where it's sort of like obviously like looking back at other comic movies, I don't really remember like the specific sounds because like it's sort of like all sort of like consistently like on the same like cinematography and like everything. Where this one, I feel like the grappling hook, when he shoots the grappling hook up,
Oh yeah.
sounded fantastic. When he punches him, when the gunshots reflect off the bat symbol, when he has the one guy with the electric glove and he's like shocking the crap out of him.
Absolutely.
The bomb sound effect, where it's sort of like this unnerving beat, or sort of like an unnerving pattern. The Tucker when he's smashing in his head. There's so much great sound design, and if this does not win sound next year at the Oscars, I'm going to be very upset.
Yeah, it's definitely going to get nominated, I think. I mean, we haven't even gotten through, again, at the time of this recording, we haven't even gotten through the next Oscars yet. So it's still very early to say. That's why, like, it's hard for me to predict, like, this movie's chances for the big Oscars, like Best Picture or, other things.
We can talk.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sure we'll talk about more about like Oscar stuff later in this video, but like, yeah. Well, I was about to say we'll probably talk about more, and I'll get more into that later.
I think sound something often I neglect, and I think in films like this I do, because when sound's really good, you don't notice it. Like when sound design is done well, you're just completely immersed, and like I think I didn't really notice it because I was so immersed, and I think sound is a big part of that.
Absolutely.
I think they did an incredible job in that way, because like if you don't notice sound, that's good. Like if you're directly, like, especially for like a regular viewer, like someone that's not interested in film and that doesn't know a lot about the technical aspects of film, like as like a filmmaker, like you're more perceptive of those things. But I think as like a regular person watching a film, you like probably wouldn't notice the sound, but you that's good, because like if you notice it and you're not like a film person, then that means that there's probably something a little off about it. And like I think the sound was all on, like all the marks.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I definitely think. Sorry.
Yeah, I just watched Dune earlier today, and that's also a movie that has really great sound. And I don't know, I feel like good sound is really hard to come by, because like most movies sound fine. Like they don't really have a distinct sound. So there's like a difference between a movie sounding good and a movie that has great sound to it. And I feel like this and Dune both had like really great sound that like you don't really notice, but like the more you like, I watched it twice. The second time I noticed it way more. But like, I don't know. I feel like when there's like really phenomenal sound design, it does stand out in a very good way, where you're like, why don't more movies sound like this?
Absolutely, yeah. I think like sound.
I've never like felt that way, but I think that's just like depends on like what you care about. I don't know. No, like I see where you're coming from, but like to me, I feel like sound is something I know the least. I don't know as much about sound as other aspects. So I think that I don't focus on it as much as other things. So like it's harder for me to distinct like make the distinction between those things. Because it's not something I'm paying attention to actively when I'm watching a film. Usually I'm not paying attention to anything actively too, unless like it's like a specific type of film for me. So like when I go to see like a Batman, or if I go to see those are like just entertainment.
That's fair. That's fair.
So like I don't really like I turn off my like thinking.
You turn your brain off, and that's what,
Yeah,
you know,
like,
movies-
I don't think, I just try to enjoy it, and I think
Yeah.
that's kind of how I am with films like that are like of this type.
yeah,
but-
that's fair.
I totally see where you're coming from though. Like that's so fair.
Yeah, that's very fair. I don't know. Like I generally like sometimes like it depends on the movie. Like you said, Ella. I think with this movie, like it really was a mix of both because the technicals were amazing. Like the story was really well thought out and layered. And then it's also just entertaining. Again, the action was great. Like I think like to get on that sound point, like I also thought the sound was outstanding. And I like think like great sound is like great editing. You either notice it because of how good it is, or you don't notice it because of how well immersed it makes you. And for me, this movie with both the editing and sound, particularly the sound though, really just immersed you, but also didn't always like it wasn't like, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me.
Yeah.
Also the score. I mean, I love Michael Giacchino. He is one of my favorite composers out there. Up Ratatouille, just recently with the Tom Holland Spider-Mans, Jojo Rabbit, like The Incredibles, the Star Trek movies with Chris Pine. He's one of my favorite composers, and he's another composer in a long line of iconic film composers. Like we have Danny Elfman, who created a Batman theme. We have Hans Zimmer, who created a Batman theme, and now we have another great Batman theme with what Michael Giacchino did here. What his score, like it's already become iconic. Like I've seen videos of just like people just using like the dun, 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 and it's like either like when you hear Batman coming and it's like shit.
Yeah,
It's
it's a very
just
Imperial March-esque, which I really like.
yeah.
Also,
I remember.
the
Yeah.
funny little thing. Oh, sorry.
No, yeah, you're fine. I actually remember. I think it was during the first screen test. The first thing released for the Batman wasn't the teaser. It was that screen test of just Robert Pattinson walking into frame as Batman, and you had Giacchino's score playing. And I remember that was one of the first things people noted. And that's definitely something Giacchino loves doing with his scores. Is he loves, and I've heard this in interviews and also like heard like I think there's this one jazz composer. I think his name is Charles Cornell. Future Me, plug him too.
So early on in this film, we just get such a great vibe for what it's gonna feel like. The score for The Incredibles was written by Michael Giacchino, who you may remember we just recently talked about.
Because he does a great video on, I think, The Incredibles and how Giacchino incorporates the past into his themes, like with No Way Home, obviously incorporating the other Spider-Man themes, and here just like doing a lot of classic detective noir style. I mean, the whole, it's definitely neo-noir, and not everything is hardcore noir, but you can definitely feel the noir in the score. And also like like this is like the Batman who's like you hear the Batman theme and you see the Batman walk on the screen, and you're like, if that theme starts to play in real life and then I just see Pattinson and as Batman just walk up to me, I am scared shitless. And I'm like, please, what did I do? Like that is really powerful. That's one of the
That's also one of the things I love. And also it's like one of the first things too. The little sort of montage of all the various crimes happening. And there's always there's always that one shadowy area, and you just say, he's like, they think I'm in the shadows. They don't know I am the shadows. And like, I don't know, just the shot of like just the empty shadows are just like so that's just Batman. Like that's fear. That's Batman, which I love. I love how the one guy who has like the drip is you don't even see his face. He has the mask on. You can just tell he's like shitting his pants right now.
He gets run over by the car. I love that. It was like
Yeah, he gets-
simultaneously as badass and just intimidating.
Was that little like motif where it's like da-da-da-da-da-da, like the little string
Oh,
motif they sing?
the opening
When it-
scene was so good, and the narration to bookend the movie was so good, especially because like it like actually another thing that I don't think we've talked about is like Batman's arc in the movie like is really good. I really love how they handled like him like because I mean this is like I think Matt Reeves has said this in interviews. This is just straight up a version of Bruce Wayne / Batman who just straight up has a mental disorder. They're like, this man is not healthy. And it's very clear when he goes, I'm vengeance. Like, and like, he doesn't even say I'm Batman once. He just says I'm vengeance.
I don't think they ever classify him as Batman. And like, there's like, I think there's only like 2 scenes where they call him Batman because everyone's like, oh, what are you looking at? Vengeance, which I love. I love that it's like, that's what he says so frequently that people just associate him as just Mr. Vengeance, which I love.
Yeah, I love that. That was like a really funny thing. Like when I knew for my written review, the second that Penguin said Mr. Vengeance, it's like, I know the title, Mr. Vengeance Begins. Yeah, and that's why I, jokingly call this Vengeance Juice, even though, wait, it was you, Ella, who like when I mentioned vengeance, it was like, I don't know, the Riddler kind of took his mantra.
Yeah, I was about to bring that up actually.
I said he took his brand. He stole his brand. Like he's like a YouTuber and he like stole his brand.
He kind of did, and that's funny, but then it's also really true. And I really
he's like, hey guys, I'm vengeance.
That's part of his arc, which I really love. That's actually integral because afterwards, after he beats the crap out of the one guy, which I think the injection was venom.
Yeah, I was about to say if Jalen was here, like I imagine that would be a whole talking point. It's like, is that little thing that he injects into himself venom, the Bane juice for anyone?
Yeah.
The thing that makes Bane go super big, for lack of a better word. Like I'm very curious to like, if that was deliberately, or if it's like venom, but before venom becomes venom that makes Bane.
I think because it's such a like vibrant green that I remember it being that vibrant. I think it is sort of like, yeah, this is probably some either like a precursor to venom or like some kind of variation on venom.
Yeah, I think it would be cool if it was a precursor.
That would be like,
because I mean, at this point, I definitely get it. Like, that's probably not just adrenaline. I don't think adrenaline makes you almost kill a guy from just like.
That would honestly be kind of a really cool thing if Batman essentially creates venom and then later down the line, it's Bane using his own weapon against him. I think that would be like a really cool, like full circle thing.
Yeah, that'd be a really cool way if they ever did get to Bane. And I feel like we're probably like leading to like a discussion on the sequels because, as I was saying, like I love where Batman ends in the movie, realizing that he can't just be vengeance. He has to be hope too. He has to like, because, at the end, like instead of just ditching everyone, he holds the flare. He's, it's the symbolism is like, oh my gosh, it's symbolism. Batman is the light that Gotham needs. But then it's like, well, actually, yeah, and it's on the nose, but it's
the
really,
shadows. Think about it.
Exactly.
Like
and then also just the cinematography with that flare. How? Apparently that scene was mostly lit by the flares. Just like how, like just how. But that's besides the point. I really like where Batman ends in this movie, and like I kind of like had the thought for like, I guess to sort of lead into discussion for like future Batman films within this universe, because we're definitely getting a sequel. This movie's making enough money, and it was good enough. I mean, and it's Batman, so like I kind of want to see for like sequels, like this version of Batman not just become like realize he has to be more of a symbol of hope too. I also want to like see if like through that like he realizes he can't just be vengeance. Like what if he also goes like, what if Bruce Wayne can't? Because there was a point brought up in the movies like you're a billionaire and you're not really doing much with your money aside from evidently spending it to kick the shit out of people at night. I'd like to see if like this version of Bruce Wayne building to becoming a philanthropist. And also like another thing, I'm curious to see what you two think. Yeah. I actually think version of Batman could actually have a Robin. I think a Robin would actually fit.
No, I 100% believe that.
To say something kind of on that, what were you saying? You're saying something about how he like doesn't really do much with his money, I think.
Yeah, I remember there was that scene
And
at the funeral scene where
Yeah.
Bella Real, the eventual mayor, like calls him out, like, you don't really do much with your money. I would like to change that. And I'd like
But
to actually,
I think a lot of things, like even in this movie, it kind of calls out philanthropy as being like this fake thing too. How like people will give out their money to help people, but they won't genuinely go out and help people.
Yeah.
Like in the system, like they won't physically do things. And I think his character, I feel like he'll beat up criminals and stuff like that, but like why are there criminals in the system is kind of like a big thing Batman brings up, I think. And I think that's why I don't really like Batman. So I think that like there's some hypocrisy with his character, but he is changing. I think the movie shows that he's like starting to learn a little bit that like he is going to have to change as a person at the end of it. And I think I liked that a lot. I liked how they like change his character, like his character goes through a change.
yeah,
I really appreciated that. I don't know if any of that made sense, but that's kind of all over the place. You might have to cut some of that out.
Hey, no, you're fine now. I mean, I also agree. I mean, I really liked how, like he realizes that he can't just be one thing, because that's not gonna, like, you can't just be like beating up criminals. You also have to just give people hope so that things can change for the better. And that's, that's why I'd be like, I know some critiques with this film that I didn't have personally is that like he doesn't play Bruce Wayne like a different character than Batman is. I didn't mind that, especially with the way he interpreted it. But that's one of the reasons why I love, like, I don't know, for me, it's too early to say if Pattinson is my favorite Batman. I loved him as Batman. He was outstanding in this movie. One of the reasons, like, I want to see him grow. Like, I want to see how this version of Batman becomes more like of a public figure instead of the shadows, and like to see if like he can make Bruce Wayne also a figure for a change too, because because that was like another thing the Dark Knight trilogy obviously talked about a lot. It's like, well, we know who the real you is. Like Bruce Wayne is the mask and Batman is the real you. That's, I'd be curious to see like him actually, like, sort of like the best the Spider-Man stories also are like where it's like Spider-Man realizes that he can't just be like, in order to be a good Spider-Man, you have to be a good Peter Parker. That's like not as big of a thing with Batman, but I definitely would like to see if that's another direction they could go. And just to also like ask another question about future, and you were alluding to this earlier, Nick. What villains are either of you thinking for a sequel to this movie?
So I know Matt Reeves has mentioned possibly doing Mr. Freeze, which I would really like. I love Mr. Freeze is probably my second favorite Batman villain, and I'm gonna actually say Riddler is my favorite because the Joker is like a different level of villain. I feel like it's like you can't really say who's your favorite Batman because you're gonna say Joker. So I'm gonna say Riddler. That's why
Joker's too obvious.
I'm gonna talk about Riddler in a second, but like Mr. Freeze is my second favorite. So I think I have an idea. I was telling Jalen about this. I want the next Batman movie to be set during Christmas and have the main villains be Mr. Freeze and Scarecrow.
I love Scarecrow.
I think
That'd be interesting.
Scarecrow's one of my favorite. I think Scarecrow is like one of my favorites actually. I love Harley Quinn too.
I think Harley Quinn's great. I think I don't
see her. I don't know. I don't see her like in this universe.
No, at least not for a while.
Could be maybe, but like I don't see it. I feel like I'm never gonna get a Harley Quinn that satisfies me though. I think people have a lot with her storyline that they could work with, but they haven't been working with it. Like I don't know why, but
yeah.
And especially there could be very important issues that they could bring up, like abuse and that type of thing, and like emotional abuse and being in an abusive relationship. Because she is in an abusive relationship with the Joker, like that's what it is.
And I think because of Jared Leto, I think after the Suicide Squad with Jared Leto, which I still haven't seen, like I think they just sort of avoided Joker as a factor with Harley Quinn, which like is interesting because Harley Quinn is her own character, but then also like in terms of a Batman story, like, you know, I mean, Batman is Harley Quinn's debut, I believe, was in Batman the Animated Series. So she started out as a Batman villain first and foremost. And I'd also,
Harley Quinn became Harley Quinn because of the joke. Like, not like that. Like, she was always herself, but her villain like story is because of the Joker. Like they're tied together. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah. And I don't think it's completely out of the realm of possibility that we get a Harley Quinn in this universe. I mean, I just don't want. I mean, I was admittedly during the first time I saw it, and I realized that Barry Keoghan was playing Joker in that scene. And like the second he said clown, I was like, oh no, please just don't tell me that Joker is going to be the next main villain, and it's not seeming like that's the case. And so with that in mind,
I agree. Like we shouldn't go with another Joker thing.
I feel like Joker is kind of a hard character to do because like was the first one when Jack Nicholson was the Joker. Everyone's like, oh, Jack Nicholson's the only Joker you can have. It's like people were like bashing Heath Ledger before he became the Joker.
Because of Jack.
I feel like.
And now it's almost gotten to the point where I think we have too much Joker. Like we've had Jared Leto, we've had Joaquin Phoenix. Like Joker and the Batman are both some of the most iconic characters of all time. But I just think because I was happy to see this movie just be a Batman movie and not a Batman Joker movie. And at first when I saw that scene, I was like, oh no, don't tell me they're going into Joker. Thankfully, it doesn't seem like that's happening. It seems like Joker might factor into that Arkham series. But but not like directly as the main villain for the Batman suit, which I am really.
No, I agree. I wouldn't want that either. I don't think they would do that, to be honest.
No,
I didn't particularly care for Barry Keoghan's interpretation so far. From what little we've seen, I did not enjoy.
It's very early to say, and I think if they build to like an adaptation of Arkham Asylum, since like Matt Reeves clearly wants to build out Batman's Rogues Gallery. Like if we build to an Arkham Asylum, which is, you know, where so many villains take place and Joker is critical to that story, I think that would maybe be interesting. But other than that, I don't want to see Joker be the main villain anytime soon. Even though I didn't mind Barry Keoghan's performance. I think it's Keoghan, or I don't know. I probably said it wrong. I'm Barry Keoghan. If you're watching this, which thank you for watching this. I'm sorry. But yeah, Nick, to what you were saying about Mr. Freeze, I wholeheartedly agree. Mr. Freeze is also one of my favorite Batman villains. And I want to see Mr. Freeze done well. And I'm excited that it seemed like it actually could very well be Mr. Freeze. It seems like it could be Mr. Freeze or Court of Owls. I think like Court of Owls would be really interesting. I still haven't actually read Court of Owls, but I've always heard it's a really, really fascinating story. But I definitely would like to see that at some point, especially since I know that's a more detective-heavy story. I just personally and selfishly want a good version of Mr. Freeze. I think the reason you need to add another villain to Mr. Freeze is I don't know how you still make it a detective story with Mr. Freeze, aside from like maybe, you know, Batman.
I don't know much about Mr. Freeze.
I would.
What's his like story?
Basically, do you mind if I go into this, Nick?
Sure, you can do that.
Basically, Mr.
Cut
Freeze.
this out. This isn't part of this is a separate side note. I just want to know.
No, that's completely fine. And to anyone watching this too, like Mr. Freeze, like, you know, they actually do touch on it in Batman and Robin, even if it's, you know, a little bit more Freeze well instead of one of the most interesting dramatic Batman characters, which it is. Basically, usually Mr. Freeze's story is that his wife, what's his wife's name? I can't remember.
Nora Freeze.
Nora Freeze, like she gets like a terminal illness that in order to like basically cure her, because Mr. Freeze, Victor Freeze is a scientist, It's like he like puts her in either ice water or like freezes her so
think
that
it's
he can try and
cryogenic.
develop.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think it's cryogenically. He cryogenically freezes.
Yeah,
her.
he cryogenically freezes her to try and work on a cure. But then in the process of working on the cure, he then like basically not falls into a vat of acid, but like something goes wrong and he basically gets to the point where he gets so cold that like it like affects his bloodstream to where like he needs to stay cold to stay alive, and because he's and then eventually he building like to then keep Nora cold too because she needs to be at a certain temperature. He starts to basically he becomes a villain to help his dying wife.
Isn't that kind of like Scarecrow's in a way?
Uh,
'Cause isn't he saving his daughter or something? Or like
That's
Not-
That's Sandman. I'm pretty sure.
that's
No.
that's Sandman and Spider-Man, and I
No. There's like Scarecrow. I thought Scarecrow, at least
is
like
that in Gotham?
Yeah, in Gotham
Okay.
storyline.
Usually
Did they change his story in like
I'm
Gotham?
usually Scarecrow is I know some version are different, but I think in like when he was a child, he was locked in a room with like crows, or he was locked in a church with a bunch of crows, and it was like mentally scarred him. But then
Mhm.
he became fascinated with like fears, so he designed.
Oh, he's like testing the fears or something like that. I
Yeah.
think they changed it. They definitely changed it in Gotham.
Yeah, Gotham. I know Gotham just played around with the villain's origin stories.
I
mean,
think
did we
they
get-
mixed up. I think they mixed his with Scarecrow. Like I think they kind of switched the storylines because in his storyline he creates a thing and then it becomes something else. Like
Yeah.
he creates it to save someone, but then like
Yeah.
it goes awry and then like
Yeah.
he like injects himself with it to test it and then it like drives him mad. Like it's kind of similar.
Yeah, versus like Batman Begins and the whole Dark Knight trilogy where Scarecrow is like really a pawn and like he uses fear. I always enjoyed that version of Scarecrow. I always thought
fantastic.
Oh, he's absolutely fantastic. I thought he was always a great Scarecrow.
The Mr.
And
Freeze thing sounds interesting, man. I would want to watch that.
yeah, I definitely, and it seems like that's where they're leaning. I still would also like to see Court of Owls, and I think also that partially makes because that is a very, from everything I know about Court of Owls, that's a very detective heavy storyline.
I think you're gonna save that for like the third one, probably.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance. Also, like, it'd be interesting to go from.
How many do you think there are gonna be of these things?
I
I
think
feel
we confirmed the trilogy at least.
At least a trilogy. I honestly wouldn't
Whoa.
mind more, but
Mhm,
I
would
at least
love
a
it.
trilogy. Again,
Especially
I
I see-
honestly wouldn't mind more because I just want. This is like Robert Pattinson's Batman is like Tom Holland's Spider-Man. How I just want to see this Batman grow, and that's one. So I just want to see him be Batman for a while. But I know it's probably just gonna, at the very least, it's gonna be a trilogy. And I would love to see Mr. Freeze. I also heard Hush, but like one of my theories with this movie going in is that Riddler was going to be more than just Riddler. He was also going to be Hush. And Ella, I don't know if you know who Hush is. Hush is like in the comics, like a childhood friend of Bruce Wayne who seemingly dies, but then because of this weird facing. So then he starts to like rip off people's parts of people's faces. And then eventually to like create the face of Bruce Wayne.
Cool.
Like I thought, because when in the trailers when we just saw the faces completely wrapped up, I thought it was going to be Hush. I think there was an Easter egg that reporter's name was Elliot, and that's the real name of Hush. But I also think that would be a little bit too similar to maybe what they did with Riddler.
That's what I think they sort of combined Riddler and Hush
Yeah.
together. Also, there's a little bit of Joker in that, with like a lot of Dark Knight stuff. What I saw in the Riddler.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and also like some Long Halloween.
Yeah. Oh, like there's a lot of Calendar Man. Like the shot in the interrogation room is very Calendar Man-esque.
Oh yeah, Calendar Man's another Batman villain. But that's besides the point. I think we have been talking about this movie for quite a while. So do we have like any thoughts? And like
Unless as long as the movie, no.
I don't think we could go as long as the movie.
I think
if I couldn't go as long,
we should go. Yeah, we should just make this like the longest podcast about the Batman ever.
Oh yeah. I mean, if I couldn't go
We need to go over the movie. We need to
Like
read
scene
it.
by scene, frame by frame.
Yeah,
Push it to the line.
frame by frame analysis.
I want to.
Then we're gonna break down the sound.
Oh yeah, and then the score, and then the
Hmm.
editing. Like we just teach an entire class of
About just-
film analysis, and it's the Batman just for every single part. All right, so
Oh,
here's
no.
how story factors in. Here's how acting
Hmm.
I think I'm out then.
Yeah,
Damn.
I want to bring up something that I noticed the first watch, and I'm not sure if you two noticed. After Catwoman kicks Kenzie off the roof, and he is going after her, when he grapples, like runs down the building, is that, I'm 100, this is tying back to the 60s, is that a reference to the fact that in the 60s he would climb up the building like that, but he's running down the building this time?
I can't believe I never thought of that.
I
That's-
noticed that the first time. I'm like, if that's a really deep cut 60s reference, that is fantastic.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, again, apparently Batman has a thing with not being able to get rid of bombs. So, and this movie like felt like it was a love letter to Batman and a new version of Batman. I mean, like we have like the line where, Zoe Kravitz goes, what do you live in a cave? Or just like, the Caped Crusader or the world's greatest detective, thing that Penguin says, like all those things like fit in really naturally, and then it still felt like its own identity. Again, it felt like gothic and grounded, and like the way Batman played with the gadgets. I can't believe I didn't mention the bat symbol on his chest being a knife. I loved that. I loved that so much. The squirrel suit basically is how he glides.
I think
So many good things to this movie, and I'm sure we definitely could talk about it for the full length of the movie, probably.
I think this has the best grappling hook scene in Batman. Like the long take of him shooting, going up, and he did all the cops running around him, that's shooting at him. I don't know. I saw there's actually a video on YouTube where it's that little chase scene was every other scene from the previous Batman movies, and all of them really work. Even the '60s one is thrown in for a little fun one, but like I would definitely recommend checking that out. It's a really fun video.
Yeah.
And
Not Nick. I mean, wait, what,
Well,
Alex?
Due to fear from the copyright overlords, this is the singular link I will not provide. My apologies.
wait, what?
I got your names mixed up. Alex, link that.
No, it is.
I'm getting tired.
Ding.
Yeah,
Nick, send me the link to that later.
yeah, I will.
So I can actually go ding.
Mhm.
Alex, are you gonna put like videos in this one? You should put like clips.
Oh my gosh, I'm tempted. How
Do
much am I
that.
going? I'm very tempted. It also depends on how much I really want to spend time editing this, because it took me a long time with Spider-Man 1, and I don't want this discussion to wait too long before I post it. But then it's just, I just hope I can find the time. Maybe
You
I'll,
might not. Yeah, it's fine.
I mean, I think at the very least, I'm just gonna I'll include the links and just like all that stuff in.
The bottom, yeah.
Yeah, like if I, in a perfect world, it's also just like, I would hope people want to see our faces as we get expressive, like bada boom, like Penguin. Hey, take it easy,
Still
pal.
a better Italian than Jared Leto and House of Gucci. I'll give him that much.
Still haven't seen that, but
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
so any final thoughts? And I want to get both of your objective ratings and subjective ratings. Where does like the Batman rank for you?
We're doing like actual ratings, like scale ratings.
Whatever you like. You can do out of 10, out of 5. You can just give it a grade. What I like doing is like for the objective, I like doing out of 10, and then like for subjective, what I like doing is like just like saying like a phrase on like I really liked it, or I loved it, or I hated it, or whatever you want. So Ella, let's start with you. What's your I guess final thoughts on the Batman and your ratings for the movie?
Okay, wait, so like is my objective gonna be like the cinematography, the specific elements that need it?
What you think of the movie from an objective point of view, and then what you think of the movie from how you feel about it. What you think about the movie and what you feel about the movie.
Okay, I think objectively it's probably a 7 or 8 for me. Okay,
Okay.
I'll say 8. I say 8.
Gotcha.
7. 7. I might have to rewatch it. Like, I think it would go up if I rewatched it, maybe. But from
Yeah.
initial viewing, that's like where I'm probably at. Subjectively, like, I don't know if it was like my favorite, but personally, like, I just don't like Batman like as a character. So like I guess anything centered around his character, I'm not gonna like as much about
Mhm.
something that's more like centered around like a villain when there's more focus on a villain. Because that's
Mhm.
just like I don't really like that. So I think overall it's a pretty good watch. Like I wouldn't not recommend it to other people. So yeah, that's like my rating. I think I would recommend it to other people. If you like Batman, it's good. Like
Yeah.
if you are like into Batman as a character, it's like really good. That's what I would say.
Yeah. For my objective, I don't know. I can't give it a perfect 10 because I do agree that like the last 30 to 25 to 30 minutes do kind of
Mhm.
drag on a bit, but I do think it is at least a 9, maybe even pushing a 9.5.
Mhm.
And I think it's technically the best Batman movie, and I think story-wise it's one of the best. So I feel like looking at it technically and looking at it as a story works both ways. And subjectively, as I stated, this is so far my favorite interpretation of Batman. The sequels could be better, or this could still be my favorite version if they don't hold up as well. But I still think I have faith in Matt Reeves now, like 100%. No doubt he's going to make a great movie next time as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think Reeves really like proved he was really like a great choice to do a new Batman. Nick, I think we're pretty interlocked with I definitely still think the last, I think because the two climaxes, because Batman and Catwoman are both protagonists of the movie and you have to have two climaxes, it makes the last like I think the second climax happens around the 2 hour mark. So like, I think from there, that's when I start to feel it more, but I still really loved it. I think, and even then, like, it's still, in the grand scheme, this movie succeeds in so many areas that like, feels like a much more minor thing. And and also like, I guess like some of the dialogue is expository, but it's a detective story, so you kind of need that. So for my objective rating, I would give it a 9.5 out of 10. It's not quite out of 10. Again, not that like people are comparing this and No Way Home because they're both movies about some of the biggest comic book characters of all time within a recent span. It will never be as impactful as Spider-Man No Way Home was for me. And I legitimately thought that movie was incredible. Oh, like really like how they pulled that off was really, but again, the Batman is really strong, worthy of a 9.5 rating. And subjectively, I loved it. I loved this movie. It gave me next to everything I wanted in a Batman movie. The only reason this is definitely my second favorite Batman movie because The Dark Knight, I still think The Dark Knight just feels so precise. And I haven't rewatched it in a year. I think actually almost exactly a year is when I rewatched The Dark Knight compared to having seen this. And it'll change over time, and but I think it'll probably stay solid at the moment as my second favorite Batman movie, and I really did love it, and I'm glad I got to see it 3 times. I'm glad I got to see it in really good formats from Dolby to IMAX, and I'm really glad I got to have this discussion with you two. This was a great discussion. Thank you both.
I need one more thing. I do think I like it better than Dark Knight, but I haven't seen The Dark Knight in like a while.
Ooh, that's valid. Nick, I guess I want to ask you.
Aesthetically.
Yeah. Nick, where do you fall on that, I guess?
No, I think this is better than Dark Knight. Again, This is more I'm not a big Nolan fan overall. Like
Jalen was here, like,
filmmaking wise, he's
Yeah.
great. I don't think his stories and like I don't particularly think he gets all the characters.
Nick, you can say this because Jalen's not here.
No, I think that these are
Jalen's
my
ghost is
opinion-
just
I think
staring
that
down at us.
These are a valid film opinion. I don't think Nolan is fantastic when it comes to like how the film looks and is shot and everything. Like, I feel like his versions of characters are not as good as they're only good because of the actors making them good. I feel like if you just read the script, you wouldn't say, oh, this is like a really good Batman movie, or this is a really good Gordon, this is a really good Joker. I feel like the performances do a lot of the work. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like this movie felt like they felt like I really, if I read the lines, like not knowing who was in the movie, I feel like, okay, these lines fit with these characters more than like the Dark Knight films, where I feel like they're more like, I don't know. This one, I feel like there's more showing, less telling than the Dark Knight movies, where it's a lot of dialogue, which is more of a Nolan thing, which I don't particularly like.
Yeah, I get that. I definitely get that.
I agree. After being after messing with you, I do agree with that.
Yeah, no, that's valid. Again, it's still very close with the Dark Knight for me. I mean, and I definitely get your criticism of Nolan. I mean, I don't think Nolan is perfect either. I mean, I also think I think it's not great when you have a character called the protagonist who doesn't feel much more than just a character called the protagonist in Tenet. I'm looking at you, Tenet. John David Washington, though you're great. If you ever like to act for any of our films, please let us know. If you're also watching this, because clearly you're watching this, because clearly we're celebrities. But it's still very close for me. And either way, hey, the good thing is we got more good Batman content, more good movies, which is all a good thing, I think, objectively at the end of the day. Because Batman is more than just any other character. He's one of the most iconic characters of all time, and I think the more the better. And I don't know what else to say because we've been saying quite a lot. Because damn, for such a small budding channel, do we know how to really push the limits with length here?
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
I want to say this is going to be longer than the Spider-Man one. I don't know if it is.
I don't think
Spider-Man
so.
like pushing 2 hours, or
The Spider-Man one was feature length. That was an hour and 45. This is definitely
Are we done recording soon?
Almost. I just want to.
The pressure's on still.
Oh yeah.
I've been like smiling so much. My cheeks are hurting.
Yeah, you're fine.
It's all an act.
Yeah, this is all part of your Joker arc, clearly, Ella.
This is.
Yeah.
I hate that I'm like the girl saying like, yeah, I like the villains more. But that's literally me. Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's fine.
I think it is because we see so much of Batman. It's like, okay, the villains are more interesting because we don't see them as much.
Yeah, that is completely valid. That's why I wanted you for this discussion. And Nick, I also wanted you for your Batman taste. I love always getting a really, because if it was a discussion of just only one perspective, then it's not going to be as interesting.
We need Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy to be like romantically together.
Ooh, yeah, that'd be good. Another
We
sequel.
need sirens.
Yeah, and with that little tease of I don't know why I phrased it like that, of Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn for potentially another Harley Quinn movie, potentially Harley Quinn and a Batman movie, potentially another version of Poison Ivy. Who knows? The future is broad. But in the meantime, thank you everyone for watching this. Hopefully, I was going to say all two of you. I hope it's more than two of you. I really hope so.
Me and Nick.
Yeah, especially if
to me and Nick.
Yeah, exactly.
And Alex.
Exactly. It's just us, just rewatching this a million times. Yeah, seriously.
We're gonna get 20 views all ourselves. But...
Hey, we'll get there. We'll become celebrities someday. This is gonna be our this is our origin story. This is our year too.
It'd be really bad if we become super
my origin story is embarrassing.
Hey, I can relate to that. To seriously, to anyone who stuck through, or to anyone who watched this entire discussion, we really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for supporting this channel. Again, this is, this channel is and is another passion project of merging, like, film majors, filmmaking, film discussions, all that. We love movies here. So thank you. And if you like this, please share it with someone. As long as they've seen the Batman, or if they don't care about spoilers, please share it with everyone. Please, like, doing that old YouTuber thing. Please like and subscribe. Whoa! Please feel free to do that. Leave a comment. Tell us what you thought about the Batman. Clearly this is a movie that, like, no matter what you think about it or how much you liked it, it's a movie where there's a lot to talk about here. So let us know what you think. And unless either of you have any closing thoughts, I think that is a fiend.
Please like and subscribe.
Please like and subscribe.
Smash that notification button.
Smash-
Like and
Smash
subscribe.
that like button.
Smash that notification button. Smash that
We
like
should say
button.
it all at the same time.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
Smash that
that
notification button.
Button.
We
Button.
kind of
Oh,
fell
no.
off there, but you know what?
It's really
That's-
bad.
That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of it. Again, this is our origin story. Thank you all for watching this. And on behalf of Nick, Ella, and myself, have a great whatever time of day. Have a great night, everyone. Take care.